Running through the heart of the North Yorkshire countryside is one of the busiest arterial routes in the UK, the A1. North Yorkshire's 40-mile stretch carries nearly 80,000 cars a day. Any accidents here quickly become a major issue.
Incidents that happen on it can cause major blockages, and incidents can become major incidents in a very short space of time.
It's 4 p.m. and Traffic Officer Ian Atkinson has just come on shift with trainee Becky Lund to the report of a truck on fire near a busy motorway junction on the A1.
However, the complicating factor is that it may have hazardous chemicals on board.
Now that can mean anything, from foodstuffs right up to explosives, and they mention it's on fire is going to be a major incident.
Some of the stuff that's carried on roads these days is lethal, and the gas or the fumes can kill you.
As Ian arrives, the lorry is already surrounded by the emergency services.
Hello, what is it? Do we know?
Its trailer is carrying huge bags of tri-lead dioxide phosphonate used in the production of PVC. It's lead-based, highly toxic, and on fire.
I'm not going to repeat it, but it is hazardous. Try oxide something.
All right.
Thank you.
The fire service have been attending for half an hour, but they've been unable to put out the fire, which is smouldering deep within the bags of chemicals.
It's gradually escalating, the seriousness of it.
The burning chemicals are releasing toxic fumes dangerously close to a local village.
I think we're okay here at the moment. If there's a change in the wind, you may see us shouting and running. I mean, obviously now they've all got breathing apparatus on, so the powers that be have declared it a critical incident. So yeah, we've got a major incident on our hands now.
As the fire service fight the burning chemicals, Ian's main priority now is to find out how the incident was caused.
The only way we can find that out is to speak to the driver, which is what I was given the task of doing, and to get his account of what had happened.
Have a chat way up here.
If there are any offences involved, he may have done something that he may need arresting.
What is it that's on board? Oh, you don't speak English? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Polish.
You're Polish? You understand English at all? Little. Who do you work for? Who are you driving for?
It's that international language, isn't it? You start using your hands and talk a bit slower and shout at them.
Driving licence? Where have you come from today? Scunthorpe.
Yes.
Where were you going to? Newcastle.
With the language barrier, Ian's finding it difficult to establish the cause of the fire and whether any traffic offences have been committed.
Do we know what set it off yet?
Right. I can't ascertain why. There's a load in the back on fire. There's no damage to the truck.
Right.
When was his last stop? He hadn't stopped another
I can't get that out of him.
The fire service are still unable to put the fire out, and the traffic cops need to minimise any hazard to road users. The roads adjoining the A1 are being closed.
We've shut the 168.
Yeah, that one's shut.
North and south. The on-slip will need shutting. That's the truth.
The biggest decision is whether or not to close the motorway.
Do we keep the road open? Do we shut the road? Hundreds of thousands of vehicles use that road every day. It's one of the main routes from the north in Scotland down to London.
With the fire still burning, more crews arrive to tackle it. But the chief fire officer has declared the risk too great and asked Ian to close the motorway.
Because there is an explosive risk with it.
So it's just southbound at the moment that we're shutting?
Yeah. As soon as that's shut, we've got 168 shut, so we should be sterile and they'll be able to do what they need to do.
Yeah. Motorway closures cost the economy £1 billion every year. And with the southbound A1 shut, thousands of motorists are going nowhere.
You may have people who have no idea what's happening. All they can see is emergency vehicles ahead. As soon as you start closing lanes and causing obstructions on it, it'll ground to a halt and it just becomes a car park.
It's bad news for the rescue services on the A1. The fire has been burning for over 2 hours and the motorway is still closed. The storm could make their job even more difficult.
The conditions are gradually changing. The darkness has come down now, so the visibility we're losing. Temperatures dropping as well. I mean, obviously there's officers in the nearby village advising people to stay in the house because obviously the wind has moved round slightly and it's now heading northeasterly instead of east as it was.
For Traffic Cop Ian, the priority now is to establish whether the Polish lorry driver has committed any offences.
We're going to get an interpreter on the phone and try and just have a conversation with you.
Sheltering from the weather in the patrol car, Ian and the fire chief interview the driver via an interpreter.
If you can ask Jacek what actually happened and how he came to realise that something was wrong.
Jechałem I zauważyłem, że delikatnie dym leci.
Yes, I was driving and I noticed a little smoke in the back under the tarpaulin. So I looked inside and I noticed that there is a smoke inside, but because there were chemicals, I didn't want to look closer or breathe it. I was afraid of, for my own security, I didn't want to breathe that.
There's always a chance that proceedings will be taken against the company or the driver. There could be various things, depending on how the load had been put together. If it had been loaded wrong, there's issues there.
When the product was loaded on, do you know if it had come directly from a production line? Could it still have been warm?
I was told that the load is not ready yet, so I have to wait outside the house and wait for the load, for them to prepare the load. So I was waiting about 40 minutes outside. Then they called me and I saw the person bringing the load.
Okay, I think that's lovely. Thanks very much for your help. Bye-bye now.
With his interview complete, it becomes clear the driver is in no way to blame. In fact, his quick thinking is likely to have prevented a far worse outcome. The risk of explosion is still high, and Inspector Mick Barron of the Major Collision Investigation Team is on scene, overseeing the operation.
Well, we've got a specialist recovery team organised by the owners of the vehicle. They're coming from Darlington, which is about 45 minutes away. But the problem that we're going to have is that they've got to get through the 2-mile tailbacks that we've got on the road. So hopefully they'll be able to come, take the contaminated stuff and the good stuff, and then we can get the trailer removed, and then everyone can go home. And it's snowing, sideways, and it's cold.
The weather isn't just a problem for the firefighters on the A1. With gales of 80 miles an hour, storms like these can shut down communities across rural North Yorkshire. It's up to the traffic cops to keep the roads open. At the Force Control Room in York, it's 8 p.m, and operators are being kept busy with reports of a serious disruption to the country roads.
Reports are coming in thick and fast everywhere. With our control room, they can tell us where the obstructions are, and it's their job to kind of prioritise that, and without their overview, we'd be blind really.
On the A1, the storm is raging, but it's not helping the rescue services. The chemical fire continues to smoulder 6 hours after it began.
What this product's got a history of doing is reheating and spreading into the parts of the load. And the fire's sort of got deep-seated into the chemical now. And now what we're waiting for is a recovery company coming onto the scene who've got some specialist equipment which we can then transfer the product from the trailer into a secure container.
This is the rest of the specialist recovery coming down into the escort now.
The fire service have advised everybody to go to the other side of the scene, at least 100 metres away, and hopefully we'll be safe there.
The operation begins by removing the undamaged part of the load.
It wasn't going to be quick. They're unloading it, and there's some of the chemicals falling onto the road, which obviously that's going to need seeing to. So it was a long process.
What's left are 6 pallets of smouldering chemicals.
As long as we could keep it from blowing in the atmosphere, it would be relatively safe.
The crew attempt to move the most unstable bags of burning chemicals, but the wind blows toxic ash all over the road.
It was a mess. Had the wind got any stronger or changed direction, then we definitely would have been looking at getting people in the houses, or maybe even evacuating them to somewhere else.
All this will have to be cleaned up before the motorway reopens.
I mean, any incident that shuts the A1 and the motorway is a massive job. Causes an awful lot of disruption to an awful lot of people.
The motorway closure is a small price to pay. The chief fire officer believes if the lorry had reached its next destination, a ferry terminal, the incident could have become a disaster.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse if the lorry had made its way to the docks and got on the ferry to Italy, which is the destination where it was going. It could have been a lot worse.
7.5 hours since the emergency services first arrived, Ian finally hears the words he and thousands of frustrated motorists have been waiting for.
Yeah, it's safe to go up now.
Spot on, mate.
We're just going to move the trailer, sweep under the trailer and all that road area is clear, sort of thing.
Right, excellent. Thanks, fellas.
Ian's job is done, and the police open the A1 motorway.